Hello and welcome to the Turf and Touchdowns podcast, episode number 20. A little later than normal, unless you're listening on Saturday anyway, then you will notice no difference at all. But we are recording on a Friday instead of a Thursday, and also the racing is on a Sunday instead of a Saturday, so we're a little bit skew-whiff. But I'm still Luke Elder, and the guy next to me is still Tom Collins. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. This Saturday is obviously going to be a bit of a damp squib in more ways than one, with the tropical storm hitting the US. So yeah, virtually all the good racing has been moved to Sunday, including the race we're going to cover from Colonial Downs, as well as Saratoga Derby, the 4-star Dave. And yeah, we're just a little bit off kilter this week.
I've never liked the name Tropical Storm.
No, me neither. I literally read it in an article about 5 minutes ago, so I thought I'd just relay that same terminology.
Well, you just hear it, you're like, oh, that sounds nice. and then it comes, and you're like, oh, that's not nice.
Yeah, hurricane is the actual word that we should be using here.
Exactly. Like, step below hurricane is basically what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
But yes, tropical storm is hitting North America and basically everything. I'm meant to be on Sky Sports Racing tonight, and myself and Tom were just discussing that there is literally nothing for me to cover. So if you are watching this on Friday, please come say hi, because I've got nothing to talk about, and that will be much appreciated. But Tom, myself and you, we're on Sky on Saturday night, right?
Yeah, we are. Obviously, those two races from Saratoga have been moved, and the whole of Colonial's card. But there is, at this stage, at the time of recording, which is 9:53 a.m. on Friday, there is still half of a Saratoga card likely to go ahead on Saturday. So hopefully we have something to cover on Saturday. Otherwise, that could also be a bit of a slog.
Yeah, drop by on Saturday night, because we are going to make it as entertaining as we possibly can. Just might not have horse racing to do it with. So we'll see how we're going on that. We were on together regards to the Whitney, and just before we get into that, do make sure you are subscribed to this channel. You'll be updated on everything that we do. There'll be an NFL podcast out next week as well, alongside a horse racing one. But the Whitney Stakes, Arthur's Ride just absolutely blitzed them. Nothing got anywhere near him.
Yeah, huge career best from this horse, trained by Bill Mott. Went straight to the front. We did kind of anticipate he would be forward, but National Treasure obviously didn't break, which didn't help his cause, massively increased the chances of Arthur's Ride. But he was way better than I thought he was, to be honest. I didn't think he had the talent to go and blitz a field like that on his first step up in graded company. He's going to go to the Breeders' Cup Classic at the end of the year as one of the favourites, I imagine, based on that performance alone, though I do think the 3-year-olds probably have an edge. Of the others, I was quite happy with how Krupi ran, gave him an okay shout last week each way. He stayed on past beaten horses, finished second. But my other selection, Bright Future, was just awful. He never did a single yard of running and now has huge questions to answer.
Yeah, both him and Krupi were towards the back the whole way, and I mean, fair play to you. You mentioned Krupi from an each way standpoint. He ran well. Skippy Longstocking, he tried to race Arthur's Ride, and in the end, he paid for that. He ran well, to be fair to him, but we know that Skippy Longstocking has a limitation, and when a horse pushes him to that, that's where he gets found out. He didn't run a bad race, but he just wasn't good enough to figure.
Yeah, exactly that. He showed up for a good portion of the race, but just didn't have enough fight left in the tank for the home straight. He'll bounce back and he'll win probably a grade 2 next time, or he could be competitive in other grade 1s. But yeah, he was just found out there behind a pretty fast gallop set by Arthur's Ride.
Yeah, absolutely so. That was the Whitney of last week. But moving onwards and upwards, and to a day later than we were expecting with the Arlington Million. Good card. Obviously, if you are a UK racing fan and you're thinking, oh, wow, the Arlington Million, that used to be an amazing race. I used to love watching European horses go over to Arlington and run. Arlington's closed. That's going to be the new home of the Chicago Bears, the NFL team. So the Arlington Million, the Secretariat, the Beverly D, they all still exist. They're just run at Colonial Downs instead, which is a lot harder for European shippers to get to. We've still got two, but Charlie Appleby's horse was already over there in Nation's Pride, and Charlie Hills is sending Ancient Rome. However, I think Ancient Rome is going to live out there for a bit, and I would imagine he'll probably go back to Kentucky Downs, a meeting that he managed to win at last year. But smaller field for the Arlington Million. We are anticipating, and it's going to be a shock with Tropical Storm hitting everywhere and the race being moved back a day later, but we are likely dealing with softer ground here.
Yeah, we know that Colonial are happy to race on turf when it is soft ground, so I don't have any qualms about this staying on the grass. However, it's highly likely to be yielding or soft. Now, they were supposed to have a lot of rain throughout the whole week. Wednesday, Thursday were supposed to be complete washouts at Colonial. That didn't really materialise. They had 2 inches of rain, which is still quite a lot, on the Wednesday. Nothing really on Thursday. So maybe yielding, maybe soft ground. It's certainly not going to be firm, that's for sure.
No. Just on a side note with Colonial Downs, have you seen how they tend to their turf at the end of every year?
I got told by you last week, but I didn't know
Did you
prior to this. So you spill the beans for the viewers.
You didn't know this? Okay, so our colleague and buffoon, Dave Orton, he asked for facts about Colonial Downs that he could say on air, sort of before the handover between myself and Tom, and we're saying, oh, they got the Arlington Million, they got the Secretariat, they got the Beverly D. They're basically Arlington, but sort of downgraded. And then I sort of said, by the way, did you know they burn their turf? And Dave's sitting there, what are you talking about? You're trying to do me up here. It's like, no, genuinely, at the end of every season, they will set fire to their turf. And it will be controlled, so they'll literally have like a line that goes around the track, but they will burn the entirety of the track and just burn all the turf away, then just let it grow back through, which is different to anywhere else in the world. Normally, if your race course is on fire, that's a negative. But with Colonial, it's a normal.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Churchill Downs and Gulfstream could probably do with something like this because Colonial every year seem to have luscious turf. They race on it throughout the whole portion of the meet. Okay, it's not the longest of meets, but still, it always holds up. Whereas you get the likes of Churchill and Gulfstream, by the end of the meet, they're literally running on dirt. So, yeah, maybe if this burning of turf thing works, which it seemingly does, then other tracks should adopt it as well.
Yeah, one slight issue. By the end of the meet, by like day one, the turf is terrible there.
Yeah. That's true.
That's my bugbear. Pace in the Arlington Million.
Mm-hmm.
We've only got a handful of horses actually in this spot. So for you, who makes the pace?
I think Talk of the Nation has to go forward. Drawn outside, albeit in a small field. He does all his best running when he's on the front, and he's more of a grinder rather than a quickener. When you're facing two European horses, as well as a couple of other nice US runners like Integration, and you Talk of the Nation, you kind of have to run your best race. And I feel with him, the best race is going to come when he's in front. The likes of Segoy and Highland Chief won't be too far away. They're both horses that want to be near the front, if not on it, when they go slow. But I think Talk of the Nation looks the most obvious leader here.
Yeah, I'd say Segoy will probably go forward as well. That's normally what he does. Julian Leparoux had a fantastic winner last night as well at Saratoga. That is Thursday. But Julian Leparoux's riding well. He's a confidence rider. I'd say Segoy will probably try and go forward with Talk of the Nation, but Talk of the Race is Nation's Pride, who is the morning line favourite at 8-5 for Charlie Appleby. William Buick's coming here. He was always slated to come here. Master of the Seas was meant to run at Saratoga. He's now out. Charlie Appleby does have runners at Saratoga. However, William Buick was always coming to the Arlington Million, which is an interesting line.
It's more than interesting. And I tell you what,
that was almost threatening. That
is. Charlie's only ever had one runner at Colonial, from what I could see. Williams never had a ride there. Why would he not just go to Saratoga to ride in the Derby for 500,000 on what's going to be a very short price favourite? And then he could go to the 4-star Dave and obviously ride Ottoman Fleet, I think, is Charlie's runner there. So he could have had two very good chances at Saratoga. But as you say, he's always been penciled in for Colonial. So they obviously think Nation's Pride's got a huge chance. It is worth $1 million. We should say that. So there is that factor. Huge prize money, small field, highly likely to take home a big paycheck. But at the same time, Buick would have had the choice. Saratoga's far easier to commute to from England, and he's always decided to come here. Nation's Pride is just an interesting horse anyway. He's always been pretty talented in the UK. And when he goes out to the US, he runs his race. He's a horse that we know is going to be pretty consistent. He's way on top on speed figures in here. If you look at the last 5 or 6 races, he is clear. He's currently 8-5 on the morning line, as you say. I think one firm over here is going 10-11, which it's a little bit short, but at the same time, I think it's justified. I wouldn't be willing to put a decent sized bet on at that price. I would like a little bit of odds against, maybe 6-5. But at the same time, I think he's definitely the horse to beat. He's very talented and he's tactical as well. He can win if they go slow up front. He can win if they go quick up front. I think no matter how this race pans out, Nation's Pride is going to be bang there at the finish.
Yeah, he is. If you've never ridden a horse before,
nope.
My horse riding experience is very limited to when I was a lot younger. For $1 million race, if Charlie Appleby called you up and said, look, the weights are fine, they're level to suit Tom Collins,
Mm-hmm.
would you ride Nation's Pride in the chance to win $1 million, knowing that you could fall off and get hurt?
What a fantastic question. And you mean I would have no experience from now until the race either? I'd literally just have to jump on.
I'll give you like 2 days of riding lessons.
This is a dodgy question because I could end up with serious injuries. But I mean, you've got to take the chance. No, he seems like a pretty nice horse to ride. He's not overly complicated. Why not? I'm not saying I'd stay on, but I'd probably accept the challenge. Yeah, would you?
I think I would.
Yeah, I think you've got to.
Charlie, if you're listening,
if
we'll
William
give it a
gets caught
go.
up in a bit of traffic, then
if the plane is grounded, we're fine to go. But yeah, interesting one. Interesting. Leave in the comments below. Would you ride without any experience or 2 days worth of experience? Would you ride in the Arlington Million on the hot favourite? That's why you come to Turf and Touchdowns. You don't get that sort of input anywhere else. But Nation's Pride is the favourite. Integration, we'll talk about Integration because he's a very interesting runner. He's been disappointing for me in his career. He looked like a horse who had stacks of potential when he was younger. And look, he's been good. He's just not taken that next leap. I know he was fantastic again last time around, but it was a 3-runner race and the others were they were nowhere near his class.
Yeah, exactly that. He won his first 3 outings. Everyone was talking about this horse as being the best turf horse in the US, at least younger turf horse. But then he stepped up in grade. He didn't really perform in the Pegasus Turf in January. I think he finished 5th in that race. Then subsequently went to the Makers Mile. He finished 3rd behind Master of the Seas. And then he went to the Turf Classic and he was 4th. So he's had 3 tilts at proper grade 1s and he's fallen short on each occasion without obvious excuses. Now, he's 3 from 3 at Colonial, so that's the huge tick in the box for Integration. We know he handles the track, whereas the majority of these have never run here before. So that is a big positive. But when you're looking at class angle, I think he's got plenty to find. And also this morning line, I believe he's 5-2. I don't have it up on the screen right now, but I think he's 5-2. Does that not feel more biased towards US horses than we're used to seeing? Usually you have a little bit of bias towards the European runners on turf races in the US when their morning line makers create the prices. But I just don't see how this horse can be 5-2 when you have Nation's Pride in there who's way better from what we've seen so far, and he's 8-5. And we've got another horse in Ancient Rome who's probably shown at least the same level of quality as Integration, if not better, yet he's way bigger on the morning line. So I don't like the morning line price for Integration, but I respect the course form. I just don't think he's good enough.
Yeah, I get that. One of my points about Integration was there's going to be someone that going, oh, it's 3 from 3 at Colonial. It's like, it's you.
Yeah,
you're that guy. It's like, I get that it's a line. I get it sounds good.
Yeah.
But come on now.
The thing is, I was looking at this horse and I was thinking, he's 5-2 on the morning line, second favourite. I'm going to have to say something good about him because if he wins and I've not said a single thing good, then people are going to come in the comment section. So I thought, the only good thing I can actually say here is 3 from 3 at Colonial. So there you go.
He is. He's not achieved much doing those 3 from 3.
No.
But he's a horse that still remains with ability and a bit of promise. Not really with Integration. I do, however, think that Ancient Rome will run a big race. Now, Ancient Rome's the opposite. He's 3-1 on the morning line. In the UK, with one firm, 2 firms have priced this up. With one of them, he's 10-1. With the other, he's 13-2. Both of those prices are too big regarding this horse. Look, he ran very well last time around in the Summer Mile over at Ascot. That was on the round track where I don't think things necessarily went perfectly for him. Jamie Spencer Tom Marquand had to wait a fair bit to deliver his challenge. He was behind a horse called Coudoir as well. Coudoir will go to Deauville on Sunday over in France, and he'll run in the Prix Jacques Le Marois. I'd imagine he might be favourite for that as well, but he's a horse who's very much on the up. Embesto was a horse that was back in 3rd. Embesto is a very talented horse. He just needs things to drop right for him and to have the right sort of track. We know Ancient Rome can handle America, and he can handle America, the country, but Kentucky Downs isn't really an angle into him handling American tracks because Kentucky Downs is very, very different to whatever you will see over in North America. But he still achieved a speed figure of 95 that day. He won very, very comfortably. And I think he's a fascinating runner. He's 3-1 morning line, but 10-1, that's silly. He shouldn't be any bigger than fives.
Yeah, I completely agree. And if you are watching this at the time of recording, I'm not going to be picking, later than time of recording on Saturday or maybe even Sunday morning. And that price still holds up, the 10 to 1 or 13 to 2, even that's still a decent price. I would say at least have a saver on this horse because the value is just there. If you're betting Ancient Rome in a race like this at 10 to 1, on numerous occasions, say long term, they run this 10 times, he's winning more than one renewal, and therefore the price has to be considered decent. I'm very surprised that they're not closer to the morning line as well. They don't usually veer that far away with a horse that's coming over from Europe, but the traders obviously believe they're taking a stance against him, and I kind of disagree there. Now, he's obviously very talented. He was Group 1 place at 2. He finished 4th in the French Guineas at 3. He won at Kentucky Downs, a grade 3 as a 4-year-old. Now he's coming here as a 5-year-old, and he seems to have improved since being under the care of Charlie Hills. I have nothing really against him aside from the fact that he's probably going to be last early on in a race that doesn't have that much speed. But at the same time, if the ground is veering towards soft, that's going to suit him. He could easily win this race. And that horse that beat him last time, Coudoir, I really fancied him that day at Ascot. And Ancient Rome ran pretty well behind him. So the form stacks up. He would be the next best on my shortlist. And if that 10 to 1 holds, I will definitely be having a saver on.
Yeah, I was honestly before you mentioned it at the top of the show, I didn't realise that someone over in England had priced it up already, and I went and had a look, and it kept on going down the list, and it's like, okay, that's not the right price about Ancient Rome. But like I say, 5 to 1 or bigger, I think is a very fair price. Probably 4 to 1 or bigger regarding Ancient Rome. 4s is probably about the price that he should be. I think he's got the most tactical speed in this race as well. So if it does turn into a sprint, even if he's last, it's not going to really disadvantage him because he's a better horse at sprinting per se than Nation's Pride, Talk of the Nation, Integration as well, who say he's got his head up in the air and he's not 100% straightforward. So I think Ancient Rome's got a big chance. Any mention for Segoy, Highland Chief or Talk of the Nation?
I respect Talk of the Nation. His form in New York's been pretty strong. He's run against the likes of Carl Spackler and More Than Looks, who are two of the best turf horses in New York, and hopefully we'll get to see them this weekend, fingers crossed, although it does look unlikely. So I respect him. If he gets an easy lead, he's a danger in the race. Segoy and Highland Chief just aren't good enough, I don't think. They're older horses now against younger, more talented rivals, so I'm happy to put a line through both of those. I respect Integration despite the price. I respect Ancient Rome with the price, and I respect Talk of the Nation. But Nation's Pride has to be the play for me. I just think he's the best horse in here, Luke.
Yeah, Nation's Pride for Tom. I like Ancient Rome in here. The price at the moment is far too big. He won't go off 10 to 1. He'll be a lot shorter than that. So if you are watching this and 10 to 1 is available and you can get on with that firm at 10 to 1 or even 13 to 2, that's a very fair shout. But the Ancient Rome, I think he ticks a lot of boxes. The price, as I say, is very wrong. And I think he's very well suited to US racing, especially with the ground on the softer side. But Ancient Rome, it is for myself. Nation's Pride, it is for Tom. Could I, if Ancient Rome stays at that price or anywhere around that, you're not normally this way inclined, but could I interest you in a forecast?
If you can give me fixed odds, then absolutely, yeah. Absolutely, because I think Ancient Rome is the horse that's going to be passing the beaten rivals, and as you say, has tactical speed. And then Nation's Pride is the most logical winner, and he's super consistent, so he should be there or thereabouts. So in this instance, you could tempt me, yeah.
Fair enough. We'll try and do this again on Saturday night just to see if we're any closer to that. But Saturday night is not race night because, as we say, Colonial Downs has been moved to Sunday. So don't be looking on Saturday for the Arlington Million, which gives you an extra day to listen to this as well, which is even more positive, generally for us, rather than you. You can still listen whenever. But that is a look at the Arlington Million. We'll be back next week when we're looking at... What are we looking at?
A good race at Saratoga is the answer. I cannot remember. I know that it's the Travers in 2 weeks, but I don't know what's next week, to be honest.
Perfect. So we're looking at that. NFL stuff as well we'll be looking at next week. You're off on holiday, aren't you, next week?
I am. Yeah, you cannot speak too loudly because the miss is in the other room and she doesn't know the destination. But I am on holiday on Monday. So, I'll still be back for the podcast next week if we film on Friday.
Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I want to take it. It's not either of those, Lou. It's not either of those. It's Oxford.
Hey!
So yes, we will be filming at some point next week. Possibly Thursday, possibly Friday, once set again. And then the week after that, I'm going to ruin things, or the 2 weeks after that. But Mr. Commitment, I'm taking laptop and microphone on holiday with me.
Yeah, you're dedicated to the cause of turf and touchdowns, and I'm sure the viewers will appreciate that.
It's more of I get to sit in an air-conditioned room.
Yeah, don't tell that to the viewers. They want to know your loyalty to the cause.
But I will be dragging myself off the beach to come and record this wonderful podcast for you guys. But thank you everyone for listening. Tom, I hope you have a lovely holiday.
Thank you very much. I will see you tomorrow, so hopefully you can wish me that again. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we actually get Saratoga tomorrow night back on the horse racing trend, just purely because the two main races have already been moved. So at least, hopefully, we get the rest of the card. There are some decent horses running, so yeah, fingers crossed there. Otherwise, it's going to be a very, very quiet Saturday night for both of us.
Yeah, and we will be doing our best to make it interesting. But that is a look, anyway, at this week and hopefully a bit of a precursor towards next week. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us on our socials, at Turf Touchdowns on Twitter, at Turf and Touchdowns on everything else. Until we next get to talk to you next week, have a very good weekend. Stay safe. Look after one another. Goodbye.